Evil Within 3 should be a thing. I'm going to talk about what I want to see in Evil Within 3 if there is going to be a sequel. At the very end of Evil Within 1, you see Leslie walking out of Beacon Hospital, and he's not walking in his usual manner. The previous cutscene before this, you see he's already been taken over by Ruvik. But in Evil Within 2, there's no mention of Ruvik. So I think he should definitely come back, but they also mentioned a wireless stem in one of the reports you can find in the game. Judging by its name, you won't need an elaborate machine that's lined up with bathtubs. You can simply enter the stem just by being in the same radius as Ruvik. His mind would probably act as a beacon. This radius width won't be that big, but it's big enough for an entire city, which is where you'll be exploring in the game. And hopefully will be accompanied by an amazing cinematic cutscene when you enter STEM. Another character I want to see is Lily. Lily will be a lot older and she'll be working alongside with Joseph as a police officer. So their team was first called in to try and figure out what's going on in the city. But Joseph and Lily get into a pickle, and that's when they call in Sebastian. And once they call Sebastian, he's like, oh, Lily's there? Joseph's there? Joseph! So for the first hour or two of the game, you're controlling Lily and you're investigating the city, and the city is in complete chaos. There's people running away from monsters, there's people turning into monsters, and there's like barbed wire coming out of their faces like you would see in the previous games, or there'll be different looking monsters altogether, since this wireless stem will be connected into everyone's mind in the city, so we might see everyone's personal nightmare maybe. Eventually the chief calls in Sebastian and he's like, we need you once again. And that's where the game begins.
Think about this, Mr. Castellanos. I am providing you an opportunity. Not only to see your daughter again, but to save her life.
But what about Judy Kidman? I can't really think what more they can do with her character, since you learn about her past in the DLC, The Assignment in Evil Within 1. She lived in a village type area that had a church that everyone attended. Her family didn't care much about her, and looking around this village it just seemed a lot like a cult with these statues and symbols. You can also find these symbols in Evil Within 2, and there was also a character in Evil Within 2 that was a cult type leader. But eventually she was taken in by Mobius to find Leslie, and so that they can use STEM.
Mobius. So they sent you to take the boy back. You trust him. Don't kid yourself. You're just as expendable as your partners are.
I was thinking with Judy she could work alongside with Sebastian, but to make it more interesting she could be working for a rival company that wants wireless STEM. The reason why she would work for them is maybe they've taken in her family member and they need her because of her previous experience with STEM and all its craziness.
You had a home, but now that place is here with us.
So, what exactly is happening in this game? So whilst you're roaming the streets with Sebastian and you're fighting off these monsters, you eventually find out about Ruvik's plan. And Ruvik's plan is world domination. No. He basically wants to live in a world where he's accepted, and he wants everyone to be monsters. And he wants to live in a world where his sister is alive, but not as a human, but as a weird spider-like thing. Just to recap of what happened in the first game, the villagers were against his family as they were buying and managing large amounts of land in the area, so as an act of vengeance they set fire to the barn that was owned by Ruvik's family. But you see, a young Ruvik and his sister Laura were playing in that barn. Laura was able to help Ruvik, but she ended up getting burnt alive. Ruvik was so distressed about his sister dying, so he brought her back in STEM, but she doesn't look like her usual self. And in Evil Within 3 she comes back. Maybe this time around her appearance looks different. I quite like how she looked like in the teaser trailer where she's covered in blood. And maybe in this sequel you learn more about her before she died. She could also be a psycho like Ruvik. Speaking of Ruvik, their relationship reminds me of Alexia and Alfred in Resident Evil Code Veronica. They seem to have that same incest type relationship. I remember reading a report somewhere in the game where they talked about this. And also there should be a Resident Evil Code Veronica remake, but that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, back to Ruvik.
How do we take him down?
We know that his mind acts as a beacon, so anyone that enters his radius is affected by this wireless stem, and the more people that are in wireless stem, the more bigger the radius gets. But it's not as simple as going in and out. Once you're in, you're stuck. Once Sebastian and his friends figure this out, they trick Ruvik into expanding his wireless stem with Myra's stem.
Who is Myra? She is the wife of Sebastian. You actually fight her at the end of the game in Evil Within 2. You try to get her out, but she can't leave STEM. She chooses to stay behind to destroy Mobius.
They can take Mobius down once and for all.
But this time around, in Evil Within 3, she can come back by merging her stem and Ruvik's wireless stem, and she can have some control and finally defeat Ruvik. But it won't be as simple as that. Ruvik is a very intelligent but also an unstable person, and his thoughts are projected onto STEM, which pretty much looks like a nightmare. So, this is where Sebastian comes to fight the final boss, but with the help of his friends. They could be doing different things whilst the fight is happening.
Once Ruvik is defeated, everyone in the city is back to normal. There's no more threat, everyone's back together. Myra's back, Sebastian, Lily, they can finally live together as a normal family. Joseph goes off somewhere. Kidman, I'm not too sure what happens with her, but she's probably happy too. Everyone's all happy and it's a good ending. So this is pretty much what I want to see in Evil Within 3, and maybe in the sequels they can introduce new characters. But I'm also looking forward to their new game, Ghostwire Tokyo. I'm not very excited by the gameplay. I was more expecting something like Evil Within. But yeah, let me know what you guys think Evil Within 3 should be like.
I wonder if it's still there.